Welcome back, viewers. We'll continue our testimony part 2 on the last 12 months with David. Just a quick recap. So at this point, the previous podcast finished where David was admitted to Auckland Hospital after suffering a lacuna or lunar stroke. It depends on how they pronounce it in your part of the world. The doctors here pronounced it as lunar, but it is spelled Lacunar. So for those who want to go Google that, that is the stroke that David suffered. The stroke has left him paralyzed on the right side. So his taste was affected like exactly on the right side of his body. He can still not taste on the right side. His right arm is completely lame. He has, in the meantime, learned to walk a bit by using his knee on his right side with aids to be able to move and function a bit better than what it was. So I will leave it over to you to continue, maybe just the highlights of, because after Auckland you were transferred back to Waikato Hospital, like on the second day. And your journey at OPR, or Old Persons in Rehabilitation, stroke as the stroke ward in Waikato Hospital started.
See, one of my first things was, what am I doing in an old person's rehab? Anyway, so they take people up till from 55, I think. So I'm laying in bed, and doctors come around, and for the second day or third day, I still can't believe I had a stroke. I still ask them, have I had a stroke?
Was it really a stroke?
Really a stroke, and I still couldn't believe that. And I was saying, well, when can I be released, type of thing. When can I was still in denial. Actually, is probably the word to say.
Shock.
Shock.
Denial.
And it was quite interesting because I'm laying in the hospital bed. There's David Wright on the left-hand side, perfect. David Wright on the right-hand side was not perfect. And it sort of, that was turning out to be the very uncomfortable side of David as well, because I couldn't do anything, couldn't even lift the arm.
Which was your goal scoring? It was your goal scoring.
It was my football goal scoring foot, which was terrible, and it was my right hand.
Your right hand side.
And the very first time I sort of knew that I was in trouble was when they come round to wash me. They used a hoist to get me out of bed, and that was kind of
the shock.
That was the shock of thinking, well, actually,
this is real.
This is real, and it started to hit home. And I think on the third, fourth day, I saw Wanda, and that hit home that I'd actually had a stroke, and I think we did a lot of praying. We had a lot of, I thank all the viewers out there who prayed for me, who sent words of encouragement, actually came to see me. There's so many that I can't say everybody's names singly or whatever, but those who prayed for me was amazing, and it really lifted me up from where I was at.
I also want to give a special mention to the chaplains and the hospitals, because hospital they had a new chaplain who's just come from back from Australia, Brian. And what I wanted to say is, I remember it was the first morning of the third day of David's stroke, and I've just seen him for the second time in Waikato Hospital, and I think we kept the curtains closed, and I just said, the chaplain was there, and I just said, please, can we just have a private moment, because at that point it was us catching up, and it was us recognizing that this has been a life-changing thing that has happened to us both, not just to you. You might be the one in the bed, but it was us both. And I remember David just held on to me, and he just said, just don't leave me. Just don't leave me. And it was at that point, I think, that we both had our first cry and saying, we don't understand, God. We truly just don't understand why this is well, on top of the diabetes, on top of the stent, on top of the back surgery and the other surgeries in between. What on earth is going on? And we didn't understand at that time. And but here we are. We're thrust into this whole thing about all these emotions, all the traumas, and David not thinking, oh my goodness, this is happening to me, and I have no control. So I think it was that feeling of potential helplessness. There's you can't do anything. You cannot do a thing about what is busy happening with you. And at that time, all you wanted was a loved one near to you. Because God is there, he's hearing, he's ever present. But the reality on the floor is, and on the ward that day was, my husband, how I knew him, is not going to be the same from this moment forward. We don't know what he will be left with. We are Christians. We believe in prayer. We believe in miracle working, healing power. We believe in God can do amazing things. We quote scripture. We know our scriptures. And yet here we are seeing something that is just not lining up exactly with our expectations at the time. And I think that floored you. That kind of was like, okay, God,
and
where are we?
Yeah, so it's kind of like, well, Lord, what am I doing here? There is a reason for everything, and then of course you're battling with the enemy saying you're finished and you're never going to be able to walk again. And anyway, so I'd often ask the nurses, well, I'm going to be out of this hospital. Give me a couple of weeks, and I'm going to walk out of this hospital. I remember saying.
Yeah, so we gave each other what? You said 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And you said, what do I think? And I said, well, I think 6 to 8 weeks.
And I remember the nurses and doctors always.
They just kind of smiled politely.
But David knows best, remember. David knows best.
David is in control.
David's in control. Anyway, and I'm still battling with the control thing, even being taken to the toilet and starting, and there's no way I'm going to the toilet with people around and all this type of stuff because, I'm in control. So it was a bit of a horrible time. But then I remember the Lord saying to me one night, you're going to help others. I'm like, how can I help others? How can I help others? Well, you have your mouth, don't you? I still could talk just. And I said, yeah. And the people beside you will need help. Oh, yeah. People beside me. Well, is that my wife? No, it's another patient. So I started ministering to the people beside me, would you believe? And I took the focus, tried to take the focus off me and tried to focus on them and helping them. And would you believe the very first person that I roomed with in room 2 was a Christian.
He was a believer, yeah.
Believer. 87 years of age.
First time in a hospital.
First time in a hospital ever. He'd had a stroke. And he would pray out loud at night during the night.
You prayed his scriptures as well, eh?
So we had long talks during the night, and he couldn't sleep sometimes. And of course, I couldn't sleep either. So, because I sometimes had to be turned over every 2 hours, and when you have to wait to be turned over every 2 hours, yeah, that's an interesting time of your life.
You're not in control. So
no. So then the reality of this could be a bit of a long haul started as step in and
settle.
And in the meantime, they started the long rehabilitation process of getting me back on my feet. And during this time also, the nurse has arrived one day with a mask on. Well, why are you wearing a mask? Was there something wrong with our room or something? And no, that was when COVID happened and everybody had to wear masks, and Wanda could no longer be able to come and see me as well.
We went into lockdown.
So that was another terrible thing for me, because I could no longer see Wanda in the flesh.
But thank God for FaceTime.
And in fact, I couldn't see anybody for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. In totality, yes. Intermittently, but 4 weeks in total.
And only had a few clothes there, which had to rely on other people to wash my clothes. And I said, Lord, why is this happening? He said, I just want you to be closer to me. Oh, okay. So that was the hardest. That was the low point of the whole thing, battling during not being able to see anybody and COVID and no one coming to see you in the hospital, except after a week or two. The first person to be able to see me was the pastor. It was the chaplain. But without him, I would have struggled terribly. Anyway, during this period, the Lord spoke to me and said, you're going to have to marry your wife again.
Remarry her.
I said, why? I don't need to marry my wife again. I married her once. That's enough. And he said, well, actually, you've changed since you've been in here. And more importantly, so has she. Because she has had to learn to be on her own again. Okay. Oh well, yeah. That can't. Yeah. Well, we'll put that in the bin going forward. Yeah. So, okay. Well, you tell me, Father, when that can happen. Meantime, I've been moved to another room, and I have another roommate. This time, I'm trying to help another roommate, and he was very difficult. He didn't know the Lord and hated the Lord, and he mentioned the word Lord. It was like Saul before he was a Christian. This guy was a Christian hater, and he started to see the good things were starting to happen to him when he was in my room. So in that hospital, I spent 9 weeks, 2 days before they would release me. And
you promised to walk out.
And I promised to walk out. And as a lot of you will see in the videos and the correspondence we had with David Page or whatever page it was. Camp David Page.
WhatsApp, yeah.
It was brilliant, that Camp Page. Kept me going. And finally, it came to the day of getting out of hospital, and I walked out of those hospital doors to our car, which was amazing.
With a walking stick, but you walked.
With a walking stick. Back to, we drove back to Takaro, which is where we were at. And I had to start a new life of rehabilitation at home, which was going to a home that had 4 stairs to get up into the house and 4 stairs to get to the toilet. Now, when your leg's not working properly, and it was a battle to get up those stairs, and that was probably the start of another podcast that will tell you about being out of hospital, and the battle that when I thought the battle had just about finished, actually no, the battle had only just begun. So that's the next part of this podcast that I'll be sharing with you for part 3. And we look forward to you being able to listen to my testimony for part 3.
You're getting a bit tired.
Yeah, and also.
So we might stop this recording for today, and we might just record that another day. Part 3 another day, because little did we know we would be leaving Tokoroa soon, moving to Hamilton, and I mean, as in within the first week and the second week of coming out of hospital for David, and then the journey from there on, because there was a second stroke that awaited David, and we will talk more about that in part 3. We'll see you in part 3. Have a great day. Bye-bye.